Let's face it, politics is an absolute joke. I'm Matt Richardson, and I've always suspected that literally anyone could do a better job of running the country than the clowns in Westminster. So I decided to put it to the test. Each week I sit down with a special guest who's suddenly and unexpectedly been elected Prime Minister and advise them on 3 policies they think will transform the country. Welcome to I Am Prime Minister. It is my great pleasure to introduce our new Prime Minister to the nation. Prior to politics, she worked as a TV exec before moving into the world of stand-up 10 years ago. Since then, she's appeared on dozens of TV shows, including Live at the Apollo, House of Games and QI, whilst picking up rave reviews for her brilliant live stand-up shows. And now, she's running the country. Cally Beaton, how does it feel to be Prime Minister?
Oh, it feels so good. And I think the country feels good about it. I feel good about it. The dog likes being in Downing Street. He feels there's been a lot of focus on cats previously and he'd like to shift that to dogs. So it's like it's what I was born to do, actually.
And you moved into stand-up slightly later in life. Do you feel like this is a natural progression to have a whole other career change into politics?
Well, funnily enough, you see, I did work alongside David Cameron on the ITV board. So I've seen how this can go.
So you have worked with him and know David Cameron a bit?
Well, I would say no. I mean, I'm not around his and Sam's place having dinner. You know, there's only one Sam for me and it's not that one. But yes, I am. So yes, I did see that. And in fact, I've got a joke about it in the new show where I talk about, because the show's about reinvention, and I say, you know, and I knew this bloke once who was really shit at marketing and he went on to become Prime Minister. So,
lovely.
Yes, lovely bit of business. So I see that it's accessible to all, Matt.
You saw him and you went, I could, because it's the same story with comedians, isn't it? Most comedians' origin stories are not they saw someone amazing, it's they saw someone terrible and went, well, I can do that.
Exactly, there you go.
Now, unlike many of our other PMs, you've actually written a manifesto, Namaste Motherfuckers. It's available in all good bookshops. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Well, I decided that a good thing to do would be to meld all the bits of what I've done to date, which are being in boardrooms, treading the boards as a comedian, and also I did years and years as a coach. So I thought if I could sort of blend, you know, reinvention with tales from the boardroom, with funny things, with well-being-y things, everyone's going to have to buy that book because it's a Namaste motherfucking no-brainer.
I think that's a good party sort of tagline. Namaste motherfuckers.
So what it is it is a manifesto for midlife women, but it's mainly about reinvention, that it's sort of possible at any time in one's life to reinvent. And the bit that people are picking up on the most, which I'm not sure is the bit I thought they would, is that every chapter there are 3 sort of, they're slightly tongue-in-cheek, but 3 things you could do, like little takeaways from whatever that theme was. And they are quite tongue-in-cheek. They're not sort of eat, pray, love, earnest things. But there are 10 chapters, so there are 30 takeaways. And so far, all the interviews I've done, everyone's like, well, it's a bargain, isn't it? You get 30 takeaways for 20 quid. I'm like, oh, okay. So we're amortising the cost of the life advice. So if nothing else, it's a bargain.
Lovely. Now, we could do with some bargains in politics. We are going to go through some policies that you have as Prime Minister since your victory was so swift, and we're going to work out how we're going to sell them to the public, how they're going to work. Can we have your first policy, please, Prime Minister?
Well, the first policy is to ban mansplaining. Possibly imprison mansplainers. I don't know. We can talk about whether that's too harsh, but banning mansplainers. And just to give you, I mean, I've got many examples of where it's happened to me, but probably the one that's given me the most cause for consternation in recent times was, as you know, I do lots of corporate speeches, and I turned up to give a speech and I looked at my slides and the guy doing the slides showed me them. I said, that's all great, apart from you've got my name as Carrie and I'm actually Cally. And he went, no, it says Carrie here. And I said, yeah, but I am Cally, and it's Cally, not Carrie. And he then proceeded to get me out the email where somebody from the Speaker Bureau had spelt my name as Carrie and said, therefore, he wouldn't be changing it because that's what the email said. Really? And I was like, but it's me. I know. Cally. So I feel like once you've had your own name mansplained to you, an intervention is required.
Absolutely. Mansplaining is obviously terrible. I don't know if I've been guilty of it more than I would like to admit over the years. I don't know, because sometimes I think, oh, maybe I'm just getting involved in the conversation, but I'm mansplaining. So would this be for repeat offenders, or would this be like a one-time, it's an on-the-spot fine, you've mansplained?
Well, I think it's a bit like all of these things. You've got the legal framework should be in place that it can be an on-the-spot fine no matter when it happens. Like, dropping your cigarette butt could be, but it probably wouldn't be. I think there are certain ones where we should not just fine, but imprison. And those would be like heap eating. Do you know what heap eating is?
No.
So that's where a woman says a really smart thing at like a meeting, everyone ignores her, and then the bloke a bit later repeats it, and everyone hails the bloke like he's invented electricity. I think heap eaters should be put in, a dim dark jail alongside manspreaders.
Yeah, okay.
And then mansplainers, it sort of depends. You could argue, and by the way, I like men, my dad's a man, he's a lovely man, but it's just it's the patronising sort of element of it that I feel has to... I had a cab driver, we all have interesting cab driver chats, don't we? And he asked me what I did, and I hadn't really said, and then just towards the end of getting out, he was like, so what is it you do? And I said, well, I'm a comedian. And he went, how long have you been going? And I said, and he went, keep at it, love. He said, one day you might end up on Live at the Apollo. And I said, oh, I've been on Live at the Apollo. And he went, no, I've watched all the episodes. I've never seen you.
Really?
So it's like, oh, well, I must be mistaken.
Oh, no, sorry. No, you're right, actually. No, I wasn't on Live at the Apollo.
And you definitely have watched them all. So I don't know what's worse, that I haven't done it or that I'm completely not memorable and he's watched me. But so I feel like, and people do say, well, is it a man thing? All I will say is it's not all men, but it is always men. That's how
I'm trying to think of it, because obviously working in comedy, I am friends with lots of amazing female comedians. Obviously, you and I are good mates. Angela Barnes, Zoe Lyons. And when you are with them at a gig, chatting away, the promoter, even though these women are ahead of me, like Zoe is way ahead of me, and they will come into a room like a sound guy at a venue, without fail, will talk to me like I know what's going on, and then we'll talk to them like they've never been alive before. And It's so interesting, because I'm like, I am further down the bill than that person. You need to really speak to me like an idiot. But it's really interesting being around it. And I think because you're a woman who is confident, you're powerful, you've had an interesting life, it feels like that's quite hard for some men to get on board with.
I think the thing that everybody who does, and thank you for being a good ally to the cause by noticing that. I remember when I did Mickey Flanagan's tour support and they wouldn't let me in. I was like, no, I'm his tour support. And they said, no, it's just Mickey Flanagan on tonight, love. I said, I know, I'm his support act. They wouldn't let me in. And they said, go to the back of the queue, please. Join the queue. So I walked past that entire queue. And I thought, God, if there is a rash of menopausal women trying to get free entry to venues by pretending to be Mickey Flanagan's support act, then let them in. But I doubt there is. No. So, but I get, one of the things I do get a lot, because I do after dinner speaking, and that is very, very male. And I very frequently either am not let into the venue, they don't believe I am the speaker, or I get immense amounts of speaking advice and how to use a microphone advice. And then I'll say, so this does happen often. I had it not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and this bloke was just giving me tons of advice and start with a joke and hold the mic by your chin and go slowly and think about your audience. And I sort of said, oh, do you do lots of speaking? He went, oh yeah. He said, I do every year I do it at this event. And I was like, oh, because I do it every night.
Yeah. You know what? Weirdly, I guess I was at a gig literally on Saturday, and I was for the first time ever, a guy came up to me and went, look, obviously, I just want to have a chat with you about microphone technique, blah, blah, blah. Told me how to hold the mic and all this. And he went, so how long have you been doing this then? I went, 16 years, 300 nights a year. People have fucking heard me. Like, I'm fine with the microphone. Were you by then holding the
microphone up his arse?
Yeah, and I think maybe what's actually interesting here is I think, how they say serial killers, you can tell in childhood because, things like abusing animals and things. I think mansplainers should be put on some sort of register because it's an indicator of further cunty behaviour.
Yeah, that's true.
No one is exclusively a mansplainer, are they? The kind of men that are mansplainers are going to be problems in other areas of life.
Yeah, I like that. So you've seen my policy and you raise it, annihilating a large proportion of society and putting them on a register and allowing them to function less freely.
Absolutely, because every time they function freely, they are ruining somebody's day.
Amazing. So like, maybe we could just do it as a numbers game, like what, 1 in 3 people you see on the street, put them on a register, because chances are... Yeah.
As soon as you mansplain, look, you get a fine. You know, the first time, and it does work up to prison. But if you're mansplaining, you are going to be manspreading as well, aren't you? You are going to be... We must have some sort of tag system that, you know, if they manspread, there's can be like a little gimbal in it, and then they can definitely go and have a worse fine or end up in prison. 3 strikes and you're in prison.
Yeah, or they'd have pictures. You know how when people shoplift at the local shops and they have pictures of the people who've shoplifted? You just have the mansplainers plastered down the sort of high street on the parish council board.
Do you find it worse, mansplaining, in comedy or when you were in the boardrooms?
I think I probably find it worse now that I'm a speaker for a living. I find it more on the speaker circuit than I do in stand-up. And I should add, in the defence of you and all your male comedy colleagues, it's very rarely that a peer in comedy would do that. I think it's quite meritocratic, and if people think you're funny and a good egg, you get on just fine with everyone. I think that's how it should be, and that's how my experience generally is. It will usually be from someone on the door or someone on the tech desk or someone who's not directly a comic. Yeah. Certainly the corporate speaking world is very unreconstructed in that regard, but also would be loath to bite the hand that feeds me so generously. So in many other ways, the corporate speaking world is just perfect.
Wonderful.
And delightful.
I also think comedians don't really mansplain because they are generally idiots.
They've never
had
a job,
don't know.
They've got no status.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
no
they
money.
don't know anything. You are the most knowledgeable person in every green room.
That's
because
true.
Male comedians are life's failures.
Well, I think that's a little harsh on male comedians, but yes, they can tell you where to get the best pasties at a late night service station, you know, which service stations to avoid. There's those conversations. Very good for that.
You're
and
quite
I'm
happy
willing
to be mansplained that T-Bay and Gloucester are the best places to stop at the services.
I like those kind of conversations. I feel that is because I'm not going to gather that information for myself. So if someone wants to give me that information, I thank you for your efforts on behalf of myself and my gender.
So we're going to move on to your next policy. What is it, please, Prime Minister?
So the next policy is sort out the HRT supply chain issues. And just to give you a little context here, so obviously you know HRT, hormone replacement therapy, quite important in a woman's midlife. And it's quite hard to get a prescription for HRT. You don't just go into the doctor and get a prescription. You have to sort of negotiate like it's a hostage deal. Only you're the hostage. It's very hard to get HRT. And then you finally get the prescription, which can take women years. But then does the pharmacist have the stuff? No, they don't have the stuff. I've not had the right stuff for nearly 2 years. And they just sort of say, oh, well, you know, come back in a month and we'll see if we've got it. And I ended up in the pharmacy recently and I yet again was being told, come back in a couple. And I said, you wouldn't do that if it was like diabetes. You wouldn't say come back in it. And then this woman behind me in the queue was like, actually, I've got diabetes and they've just told me to do that. So I was like, oh, they're killing them as well. I know, she ruined my whole thing. I was worried for her.
I'm making a point.
I know, I was like, don't ruin it. But she was too weak to stand up for herself.
Yeah.
So there is a real problem. And to give and we are, a lot of us, pretty furious and not very stable without it. And the worst of it is, I don't want to put you off your kebab later, but the nature of the estrogen component of HRT is usually a patch. It's like a little plaster-sized patch that you stick usually on your bum. So that's what it is. A little, and you see what I'm showing you with my hands. It's like a little thing the size of a little plaster. Those are great. However, they've not been available for years. They're on the black market of the menopause WhatsApp groups. They're being traded in car parks. We know how to survive in jail, women like me.
Oh my gosh.
But the ones they're giving us are these massive, now you see what I'm showing you. It's like the size of my head.
Yeah.
It crinkles like a crisp packet. You could see it from space. And it gives you a welty rash on your bottom. And because you alternate which side you wear the patch on, both my bottom cheeks they look like a Mondrian. they've just got sort of the old shadows of yesterday's estrogen patches. And I said to the pharmacist the other day, I don't normally even argue about it because I'm just worn down and I need my estrogen to be able to fight better. But I said, can I just mention it? It's been 2 years now. Is there anything that's going to be done? She went, oh, everyone says that. All the menopausal women say that. I said, right. I said, so I said, because on me it causes a rash. She went, oh yeah, it causes everyone a rash. She said, some people it slips off if they're having fun or they go in the water and other women can't get it off at all. I said, yeah, no, I relate to all of that. So what should I do? She went, just keep using it. I was like, great.
I am going to tell you my menopause patch story. So I was away with my mum last year, who you've met, my lovely mum.
I love your mum.
I was like, oh my gosh, mum, what have you done on your bump in a swimming costume? She's like, I was like, what have you done on your bum cheek? That's a terrible. Look at the size of that plaster. And she went, oh no, it's my estrogen patch. Thank you so much for reminding me. It needs to come off today. And she was struggling. She didn't have any nails at the time, so she went, can you just get that bit off for me?
Oh God,
we are close.
remember. Yes, that's quite true. And fair play to you. I mean, you get stuck into things that many men would. You're the opposite of the mansplainer. You're the male ally that counters so much of toxic masculinity because you're getting stuck in there. I remember when I went travelling with my kids. We were in South Africa, but we were sort of camping in little tiny tents in fairly basic surroundings. And I remember trying to go to this little hut to go for a wee, and my daughter holding the torch up as we went because there were sort of various wild animals. And then we go, oh God, I've got to change my HRT patch. And my daughter having to hold my iPhone torch and light my buttock. And by the light of the moon, with my daughter, my then 13-year-old daughter, holding my iPhone, an impala grazing peacefully nearby, watching the scene. And I peeled off my patch. And yeah, I think my daughter doesn't remember seeing the big five, at Kruger. She just remembers seeing her mum's arse.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
that's
wherever we were.
Lovely story. And then you saw a female leopard licking another female leopard's bum, and you're going, look, they're doing the same thing.
Exactly. We're all the same underneath the adhesive and the tears.
Can you explain, just for anyone that doesn't know, what the benefits of HRT are?
Well, it means we murder less people. So whereas now I want to ban mansplaining, I'd want to imprison or murder a mansplainer were I not on HRT. So it helps us dial it down. But in seriousness, just to throw a serious stat out there.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to know.
Yeah, so the peak age for suicide for women is 50 to 54, and the peak age for menopause is 51. So there's actually, in the same way we quite rightly talk about young men's mental health and the fact that there is a mental health crisis among young men, and I'm really glad we talk about it, and the statistics around suicide for that age group are horrific. But the fact of the matter is, they're also horrific for menopausal women, directly correlating to the menopause.
I had no idea about that.
So, much as we laugh about peeling off patches...
Does it just smooth out a lot of the effects of the menopause then? It kind of really makes it not as severe?
Yes, so the things that, and lots of women get misdiagnosed with, for example, bipolar disorder. The statistics around women getting erroneously diagnosed with bipolar disorder in midlife is huge. And so, yeah, depression, anxiety, not being able to sleep, night sweats, hot flashes, brain fog. Those are probably some of the obvious ones, but there are about 70 menopause symptoms, a lot of which, women do lose their jobs and leave their jobs and lose their lives. Because they're so severe. And it also ties into, you'll see why I had to write a book to get all this stuff out. The book is funny, guys, as well. But also this idea of medical misogyny, that women's health hasn't really been researched properly, that we still work to the tune still beats to the drum of reference man, which is why rooms are too cold for women, seatbelts are too loose, iPhones are too bulky. And there's a sort of carry-on effect of that the medical profession still looks much more at men than it does at women. And women get dismissed quite easily as well. So the fact that there is this massive problem, as I say in my show, if men needed HRT, you'd be able to get it in Boots meal deals by now.
Well, if men needed abortions, you'd be able to get them in a phone box.
Exactly. So there is
very true, isn't it?
And you can get Viagra. I don't expect, obviously not you, Matt, because you're young and virile, but people who like to use Viagra, I don't hear people being told to come back in 2 weeks for that. So I'm like, I reckon maybe switch out your efforts with that and put them onto the HRT patches.
And I think with this as well, a big issue is they're still blaming COVID supply issues, which was half a decade ago.
Yeah, it's not. And do you know what? Apparently, what it actually is that. Because if there's one thing I'll say about my midlife female followers on the socials, they're good for diving in and giving me the obviously entirely scientific research on everything.
Yep.
But apparently what it is that what happened after Brexit was that different suppliers had to be found and the markups become massive. So actually what it is that pharmacists and GPs have no interest in trying to get hold of
So all of the men that decided Brexit was a good idea have ruined women's lives even more.
They've ruined women's lives and they've ruined your mum and my butt cheeks.
Yep, I think we can fix this. I think we need to bring HRT production in country. And also, you are saying there's an easy way to sell this to other politicians. Women are leaving their jobs because of it. And we're obsessed with
It's an
growth.
economic issue.
It is a massive economic issue.
Yeah.
You know, if you just go, there is a magic patch that keeps women in work for longer, I don't understand why that isn't something we're doing already.
And bear in mind as well, and actually it was Kirsty Walk who, talking of politics, Kirsty Walk who first
Can't
said
talk
this.
about Kirsty Walk. She really fucked up my celebrity chase for all of us, so she can piss off.
Well, that's because she was getting her HRT. She was on it. But she said when she did a menopause documentary over 10 years ago, and she started by saying, menopause gets to women at the peak of our powers.
Yeah.
And if we were in the animal kingdom, if we were orcas, we would be the revered elders of the pod and everybody would be helping us. And I think we need to start, revering and supporting the female elders.
And also, when females, I guess, when a man says females, it feels a bit incelly. I'm not going to do that again. When women
it was
get
a bit
to...
sicky, bit sick in my
Yeah, it
mouth.
was a bit like females is a Reddit thing, isn't it, that men do when they're virgins for life.
But at least I know you're not in your mum's spare room.
No, I'm not in my mum's spare room. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
It's just full of old patches. She doesn't know where to get rid of them.
I know.
I guess you're sort of hitting that point where you are becoming leaders of companies and things like that, and then even if it's 1% or 5% are getting slowly siphoned off, it isn't good for the country. So I think maybe Liz Truss would have been good if she'd have had her patches.
I think it might have taken a little bit more, unless she'd had one over her mouth. I think that would have been quite helpful. But yeah.
What is your next policy, please, Prime Minister?
My next policy is that we should have a mandatory, we are going to have a mandatory 4-day working week for all without a pay reduction. People will be earning the same as they earn for 5 days a week, but everybody will be working 4 days a week.
Now, when you were a boss, is this something you implemented, or now looking back, is it something you wish you had on the table?
No, I was famously creative about the policies and the ways in which my teams were allowed to work. So it was all kind of contractual, but I would have people, working remotely long before working remotely was a thing. I would be massively supportive when people had kids or they had caring responsibilities to, parents or whoever. I was all about people getting the job done and being happy. Kind of call me old-fashioned, but I thought if people really, really like working here and they're not feeling massively resentful, they're not going to take the piss, because you can make someone sit at their desk for 40 hours a week, but you can't make them work for 40 hours a week. So if you make someone be in the office 5 days a week, well, they're going to have to do all the pissing about stuff in those 5 days a week because they haven't got a day to piss about. But if you give them a day when they can do their online shopping and their doom scrolling and their dental appointments, then they'll do it on that day because they can. So we used to have American companies used to have these, or ours did, some of the Hollywood studios used to do it, and they still do, these summer Fridays. So in the summer, when obviously in some locations the heat would be fairly awful to be working in as well, you could take either every Friday afternoon off for certain months of the year or every other Friday fully off. And productivity always went way up because everyone was so motivated. So I feel like, and it's also the antithesis to all this stuff that some of the big companies now are like time checking everyone and timing toilet
awful,
breaks. And I mean, can you imagine anyone timing our toilet breaks, especially in our industry?
We've actually in this country in 2022 this was trialled. 61 companies participated. 56 continued after the trial. 92% said it was a permanent change. It's one of those where if they know they've got it good, they're going to work harder. That's as simple as it is. Whereas there's so many jobs. I have so many friends with really important jobs, and I go, "Oh, how was your week this week?" And they're like, "I don't really do anything." Then you're just inventing things to do. And it would be great for the hospitality industry as well, because people would have more time, so they would go and enjoy it more and put more money back into the economy. Companies' revenue stayed broadly the same over the trial period, and on average, it rose 1.4%.
See, 1.4%, and in the current day and age, that's a hell of a rise, isn't it? It's a hell of a margin.
It's mad.
And I do think as well, and I'm quite passionate about this, I think we mistake, the way the world is, I think we mistake strong leadership for aggressive bullying leadership.
Yeah.
And I actually think gentle leadership and not being the loudest voice in the room is sometimes where you actually get some sort of influence. So wouldn't it be lovely if we went as a world less stick and more carrot and just started to try to help people want to do the things we're asking them to do, and maybe allow them not to be going crazy with anxiety and stress and misery. So I just feel like we need a bit of happiness. We want a bit of time to have some fun, do stuff, not be working. So I hate to think of my children with their real jobs 5 days a week. Breaks my heart, Matt.
It's really funny, isn't it? Because a friend of mine works for a massive publisher, and he went back into work. So they were doing 3 days a week, and then about a year ago, their CEO, who is like a real, I think it's a generational thing. It's that kind of like you wake up at 6, you work your ass off till you retire, and then you're allowed fun. But
what generation is this person? Edwardian?
Well, I think he's in his 70s.
Okay,
And basically, they did a massive company meeting where they went, look, we know that productivity will drop, but we don't care. And at that point you go, oh, it's about control. This is about making sure you are in charge. And at one point he went, it's because when I come into the office, I don't like it that no one else is here. Because they want to feel like they're part of a fucking kingdom that they own.
Or he just wants to go to the bingo, maybe, because it sounds like he's lonely.
Yeah, exactly. And you just think that all these sort of CEOs that want to feel like they've got an empire, and when people are working not as hard as they deem, even though they're getting paid, a 20th of what you get paid, you just think, yeah, let them go and live their lives. This hustle culture now of everything needs to be monetized. We all need to be,
I know.
Everything is like, if you don't have a side hustle and everything, like even I fell into it with, during COVID, I was playing a lot of Planet Coaster, a theme park game. And I said to Sam, I went, maybe I should get a Twitch and like try and monetize this. And she went, or maybe you can just have a hobby. Maybe you could just have something that's for you.
That was good advice, wasn't it?
It was such good advice. And I just think there's so much now that it's all about, like, I get up at 5 a.m, I go to the gym, I work for 14 hours a day. And you go, but is it making you happy, and is it actually helping?
And also the bits that the bit where we do the clever bit, it's like with writing, that you try and you sit and you write and you slog away and nothing happens, and then you go off for a walk or do something else, and then this idea comes to you, or you're on stage and you're doing all your stuff, and then on the drive home you get like a 10-minute new bit that comes to you. And it's the bit when you're not doing the thing, which is when the thing happens anyway. So unless we're giving people the moment not doing the thing, we're never letting the thing happen.
Yeah, totally. I think it's really important that we are not happy as a country, and I think this would be a major fix.
Exactly. I think it would take more than this to fix America, but I feel for us it would make good inroads.
We're not quite there yet, like America. And I think really, as someone that, hospitality and things, like people need to use it more. Like there's so many industries that people don't do because they don't have the time. And even stuff, you think people could have a hobby which would, generate loads of new work for people and everything. I think it's the secret to a good life, a 4-day week. I cannot believe it's not a thing.
I can't either. Apparently it will be a thing. They keep saying it will be a thing, but it's like ages away. I mean, definitely way too late for me, possibly too late for you, maybe even too late for my children, which is of concern to me. So I think, I just think we've got to start treating humans like humans instead of robots and commodities. Yep. And people might feel a bit more happy.
You know what, Prime Minister? But there's a bit of a theme running in your administration, I think. It's about making people feel like they're getting what they need. A 4-day work week, making sure women who need HRT are on HRT, and the only people that don't get treated like humans are mansplainers, which is
absolutely... And they can work 7 days a week if they want. I don't mind. In fact, that could be part of the punishment. Make them do 7 days a week and give some of us a day off.
You know what? Prime Minister, of all the people we've had on the show over the last couple of years, you are the person I could see taking a seamless entry into politics and making it really work. And I think if people want to hear more about you, they should read your book, Namaste Motherfuckers. You're also doing a tour.
I am called Namaste Motherfuckers, and my podcast is called Namaste Motherfuckers, because if there's one thing my followers have, it's brain fog, because they can't get hold of their HRT, so we're keeping it simple.
Lovely. Cally, you are an absolute joy. I cannot wait to see the show. I can't wait to read the book. Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to I Am Prime Minister, hosted by me, Matt Richardson, and produced by Matt Needer. If you've enjoyed the show, forward it to a friend, leave us a 5-star rating or review, or write to your MP. I Am Prime Minister is a Wild Ambitions production.